I have quite a bummer and information for you. Fat cells in our body apparently do not die. It stays like that throughout your life and is always ready to swell up again just if there is a requirement of just if there is an opportunity. Quite a bummer, right? Yes. So, in spite of doing all those exercises, in spite of going on those diets, the fat cells in our body is always going to be constant. The fat cells are known as adipocytes. So these adipocytes number keeps growing. The number of adipocyte or fat cells keeps growing up till around 20 years of age, post which they always remain constant. So if a person has been overweight or obese during his or her teenage, then that person has more number of fat cells or more number of adipocytes in the body. Roughly, on an average human being has somewhere around 25 to 30 billion fat cells or adipocytes in the body. So what happens when a person goes on a diet or on exercise and try to lose these fat cells? So how is fat stored in these fat cells? Fat is stored in these fat cells in the form of something called as triglycerides. A triglyceride is basically three fatty acids joined with a glycerol molecule. So three fatty acids and one glycerol molecules joined together and forms a triglyceride, and this triglyceride is what is actually stored inside the fat cells. So what happens is that when you get onto a calorie deficit diet, wherein you provided slightly lesser than your body's requirement of calories, then body basically taps into this fat, provided your protein intake is proper, that you're not losing muscles and you're doing exercises. All that is a different thing altogether, but that's very important as well. I'm not touching base on that part. I'm talking only in terms of the fat cells part now, right? Okay. So if your calorie deficit is proper, and if your body's requirement, for example, your body's requirement is 2000 calories, you ate only 800. For the remaining 200 calories, body taps in from these adipocytes, fat cells, takes away these triglycerides. So what happens is that this fat cells, which was like this, gets shrunk. It becomes like this, right? So that's how the person kind of loses centimeters and weight around weight in the body. So when a person loses body weight, the fat cells just shrinks and is always ready in anticipation of storing triglyceride molecules yet again when there is a requirement. Now, when these fat cells shrink, there are basically two types of fat cells. There is something called an alpha fat cell, and there is a beta fat cell. Basically, depending upon the type of the receptors that these fat cells have. An alpha fat cell or adipocyte is basically typically seen around your belly. The beta is seen around your neck, your face, your upper back, etc. So the difference between these two is that alpha fat cells are slow reactive fat cells, meaning to say it doesn't give away its triglycerides pretty fast. Whereas the beta fat cells are fast reactive fat cells, which means it gives away the triglycerides fast. So that's why a person, when they get onto a diet and exercise and starts losing body fat, they start losing it first from their face and neck and upper back and all that. Something that I've spoken an umpteen number of times. So coming back to the topic, the fat cells remain constant, and roughly around 25 to 30 billion is what we all have. And when we lose weight, the fat cells just shrink, and then it is always ready to, swell up anytime in future when there is a requirement. During liposuction or liposuction, what happens is the fat cells is taken away, right? That's what is done. So it was earlier believed that during liposuction, the fat cells are reduced and then they don't grow. But then the recent research has come up. It says that body actually somehow replaces these fat cells even after the liposuction. So if you lose away, say, X number of fat cells, those X number of fat cells regrow and come back again, and is always ready to kind of swell up again and becomes larger and bigger. And that's how a person loses weight and starts looking, grows larger in shape horizontally. So that's what I basically wanted to talk to you all about today, that fat cells do not die. They're always there and they are remaining a constant even if you diet or exercise. Yeah. I hope this was useful and interesting. As always, stay healthy, stay fit, stay young. Take care.